judgment, 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 final judgment, final judgment, final judgment, final Welcome to a glorious day in Philadelphia sports. I'm your host, Tony Jigsaw Cutillo. This is the Final Judgment. And again, sometimes we go Monday nights, sometimes we go Tuesday mornings. It all depends. I did watch that slop of a game last night, but in all honesty, it was great to watch because I got to sit there, me and my son, just watch and talk and have some memory. So that's the kind of thing. I'm a family guy, man. That's what I like, and that's why I love to do what I do. Before we get started, man, I just want to say extremely blessed. A lot of craziness going on in the world, whether it be up and down, whether economical, whether personal, whether mental, whatever it is. And I'm living a dream, man. And I'm living a dream because of all you. And I appreciate that, you know. I said it again, but I've said it before, but I'll say it again. I continue to say this. You know, I do this because I love it. I do this because it's my passion. It really is. Whether it be Philadelphia sports, whether it be national sports, whether it be fantasy sports, I do it because I love it. You know, and I take that and I combine that with my public relations efforts and I put them both together, and you have sports and PR, and you have engagement, and you have a following, and those following become family, and those family become friends. And it's been amazing. It really has. I mean, this is 15, 16 episodes. I just want to give a shout out to everybody that's been subscribed, everybody that engages, whether it be at Judge Jigsaw on Instagram, at Judge Jigsaw on Twitter. If you're subscribed to the podcast or right here on the YouTube page, The Final Judgment, I just want to take my hat off and say thank you. We're almost at 1.5 subscribers, almost, you know, the road to 2,000 begins in 2-3 short months. I couldn't ask for anything more. And what a time to be able to do this, right? Not only am I blessed to be able to do what I want to do, but I'm blessed to be sitting in a world, in a city, well, a little bit outside of the city, but still in a city mindset of we have not four, but 5 winning teams right now in Philadelphia. And again, this doesn't happen very often. It doesn't happen. And again, I don't expect the Philadelphia Flyers to continue this winning streak, but it's just nice that they're starting a new venture, new coach, new culture, and trying to go in a different direction, and they'll be able to put their stamp on their game. The Philadelphia 76ers that we're going to get into, right? We're going to get into the Philadelphia 76ers. We're going to, you know, NBA season starts tonight. And I hope to have Kai Carlin on later on. Check out for that interview on the YouTube page from USA Today. Covers the 76ers. We're going to talk about his latest article that he posted yesterday. It's in the comments. Make sure you click on that as well. Talking about the Sixers roster and kind of like the overhaul that they saw, in the offseason. We have Philadelphia Phillies Game 1 NLCS out there in Petco Park, against the San Diego Padres. 2 teams that were not supposed to be here, but 2 teams that made tremendous moves at the trade deadline in order to get to this point. And then, how do we forget the Philadelphia Union? Listen, I tell everybody this, and I'll say it again. For anybody in the city of Philadelphia who's never gone to a Union game. And again, I say this full experience here, full transparency. Been to numerous Union games. Okay, I've been to numerous soccer events down there. They are a tremendous organization when it comes to youth sports. They do so much for the community that just goes understated. Nobody talks about it. And that environment, that Dupe environment down at Talon Energy Stadium, that Dupe environment is something that you will never witness. I'm telling you that, man. It's a small stadium. Okay. And the way it's driven and packed it in, and you got the Sons of Ben who don't sit down. If you sit in the corners, you get the echo effect around it. It is a tremendous atmosphere. And it's great to see the Union doing big things. My man Rich checking in says, yes, let's go Sixers. Let's go Red October. Rich, what a time to be a sports fan, man. Philly sports fan. Union playoffs, baby. Great atmosphere. Been to many games. Rich, you know, that atmosphere is like no other, man. It is like no other. But we got an NBA season to talk about. And this show is going to be, honestly, this is going to be Sixers centric. Obviously, listen, I plan on going live on plenty of post games. Hopefully tonight we will be live after the Phillies game one. Tomorrow live after the Phillies game two. I love doing the live. Want to get the live reaction. So if you're checking in right now, if you're checking in later, make sure you're following the Final Judgment here on the YouTube page, the Final Judgment. Make sure you're following it. Make sure you're getting alerted, because we'll be going live on these post-game shows that have a lot of talk, win or loss, what went wrong, what went right, and you know it. And listen, I can't leave out the most important here, the Philadelphia Eagles, who go 6-0 and shut those Dallas Cowboys up, right? They shut the cockroaches up. It is what it is. And I am a Philadelphia fan, so I am going to say cockroach. That's the way I feel. I don't like the Cowboys. I'll never like the Cowboys. I don't respect the Cowboys. There's certain players that will go down for me that I will respect, but that's about it. This team right now, listen, you didn't hear the Philadelphia Eagles coming out and giving any kind of bulletin board material, did you? You didn't hear any of that. Didn't have a Mr. Lawrence on our team talking about, hey, they didn't play us yet. Okay, last time I checked, we were the undefeated team, and you were the guys that are already packing a loss in the bag. And now you got two. So, see, that's the problem. When you come out, you chirp to the media, you chirp to the papers, you chirp to the podcast, you chirp to Twitter, social media, and then all of a sudden you look like trash. You look like an idiot. And that's what happened right there. Simple as that, right? You didn't hear any Philadelphia Eagles players. And I will say this, okay? I will say this, very, very disciplined, this Philadelphia Eagles team. Very, very disciplined when it comes to popping off the papers. And that's a big reflection of Nick Sirianni. But listen, we got a Philadelphia 76ers season about to unfold. And this quite possibly, and again, I felt this way. I also seen people talking about it. My man Gene from Wire Wire Podcast posted earlier as well, saying this could be, this is the best and deepest lineup he's ever seen as a Philadelphia 76ers fan. I second that. This is a very, very deep roster. And this is something we've talked about, for many of seasons, the last 2 or 3 seasons. We've talked about, is the roster deep enough? Is it deep enough to make an NBA championship run? Do we have those horses to come off the bench? And we never did. And right now, it looks like we do. A lot of interesting moves. I can't get into all of them. I would be here all day. I still hate to see Isaiah Joe go. I hated to see Isaiah Joe go. I think he's going to carve a nice piece out in the NBA. He signed on with the Oklahoma City Thunder. Good for him. I think the Sixers are just in a different spot right now. They're a different spot where, they're all in. They're all in on this team. And as long as we have health, we have one of the best players in the NBA in Joel Embiid. He's a top 5 player in the NBA. Let's face it. He's a top 5. Is he number 1? No. Is he top 5? Absolutely. And I don't want to get into Mount Rushmores and any of that. Where does he fall? All I know is he's a top 5 player. He's a top 5 player in the NBA. And when he's healthy, look out. You know what's fascinating to me? Joel Embiid's been in the league for 9 years. 9 years Joel Embiid has been in the league. Like, think about that. Like 9 years. That's why I opened up this show. I talk about how blessed I am to be able to do what I want to do in life and to be able to carve my own path because 9 years have passed by since we watched Joel Embiid sit on a sofa and roll his eyes seemingly because he really honestly didn't hear the sound. But when he was picked by the Sixers, everybody was thinking, oh no, no, this guy doesn't want to come here. You know, a guy who played late, a guy who developed late was still going into his body, right? I mean, that's the greatest aspect of the Joel Embiid experiment. And here's a guy who was a soccer player. You see the unbelievably soft feet that he shows on the basketball court. If you ever been down there and you go to a game and you watch shoot arounds, you know, listen, he's doing volleys with a basketball. He's a very agile, agile guy when it comes to his legs and his feet. So, and that comes from the soccer mentality. And all he had to do was be trained the right way and understand how his body is going to form, how it's going to mature, and it needs to play it out on the court. And we're seeing it come to fruition the last 3 to 4 years. Rich says it's hard to believe it's almost a decade. It really is, man. The agility, his footwork is amazing. I've never seen a big man move like that. Never seen a big man before in my life move the way that Joel Embiid plays. Right? We've had big men all the time, and I will say, listen, Giannis is a different kind of player. Okay, Greek Freak is a different kind of player. He obviously has that wingspan, has that size, but it's the down low power. Giannis is a different. He has it, but it just Joel Embiid just embodies it. Just a different kind of player. Rich says reminds me of Akeem the Dream, Akeem Olajuwon. And the crazy thing is, Rich, in my opinion, he has every opportunity to be better than Akeem Olajuwon. I mean, the dream shake was unbelievable. Olajuwon wasn't afraid to shoot a deep shot either, right? Or hit the hole. But he lived on the baseline. And the game has changed a little bit. It's evolved a little bit now, right? So it's not the same kind of format that they played back then, in that era. But I could definitely see he's one of those players that I think, Akeem, we could take Akeem out of that era, bring him into this era in his prime. And I think Akeem could be very successful. I think he's one of those type players. Now, not every player could do that. We talk about Michael Jordan, obviously could do that, but Akeem as a big man could definitely do that. Guys that may not be able to do that could be a guy like Tim Duncan. I love Tim Duncan, one of my favorite players of all time that nobody talks about. I don't know if his game would translate to the current game right now. That's an interesting question. So that maybe that's a topic for the next show. NBA players that we could take from different eras and put them into this era in their prime, and they still could be productive. So I think that's something we could talk about. But let's look at this NBA. Let's look at this Philadelphia 76ers roster as it stands right now. And I'm just going to I have a little fun here. Let's take a glimpse of what we're used to seeing, what we began with, right? What we began. I mean, look at this picture right here. Look at this picture right here. Joel Embiid. We got the bro, Dario Saric, right? We got Nerlens Noel. We got Ben Simmons, right? We got, oh my God. Oh, do we have to say his name? I'm not even saying his name. Not even saying his name. I'm not even saying his name. And then we have Rashard Holmes. Okay. And then look at this. Remember where we thought the Twin Towers, right? The Twin Towers, when we had Al Horford. And so all of a sudden Al Horford comes to us. He's a complete stiff. And he goes back to Boston and wants to lead them in the playoffs. Totally ridiculous. Al was not feeling it here. And guess what? I wasn't feeling him either. And then one of my favorites, because I'm always going to be a Jimmy Buckets guy. He's the one that got away. Jimmy Butler, I loved this team except for my man Ben, who I never could stand. Never could stand Ben Simmons. But this team right here, I thought had the best shot, really, because we had the closer in Jimmy Butler. And now we've transformed to the current roster. And this is what we're looking at right here, right? This is what we're looking at right here. We're looking at PJ Tucker. Oh, who I still think we need to be very, very careful here with PJ Tucker. Had arthroscopic knee surgery. He's still not 100%. obviously be back. But listen, man, this dude's 39 years old, so we have to watch, right? We have to watch how this plays out. But definitely a better version of what we had last year. Then we have James Harden. A full year of James Harden. Does James Harden take that entire offseason that we had? Does he obviously get in shape? Does he become more familiar with this style of gameplay, being able to play on this team? Is he going to be more of a distributor? I think all the talk about James Harden going back to those Houston Rocket days, they're long and gone. We need to forget about that. It's going to be a different James Harden, 100%, a very different James Harden. So I think we have to look at that. Then we have, obviously, there's no reason to talk about Joel Embiid. We know about Joel Embiid. Okay. And then we have Tyrese Maxey, the budding superstar in Tyrese Maxey. Who is listen, for my money, Rich said it earlier, could be NBA All-Star material this year. And if that, you remember, we talked about shows last year. Okay. We talked about shows on Heat Ratio Live, and we specifically said that Tyrese Maxey is the missing piece. He is the antidote. He's the guy. He's the number 3 piece. He's the missing piece, right? If Tyrese Maxey takes that next step to stardom, we are going to be unstoppable. And then we have Tobias. Listen, Tobias Harris, gets married in the offseason, right? Good for him. Again, I'm not. It's hard because I'm not a Tobias Harris guy. I never was. His game was soft to me, but he had moments where he really wanted it last year. I saw that he did step up a lot last year, more than I gave him credit for. So I will talk about that. Tobias Harris stepped up more than I gave him credit for last year, and accepting a role on this team where we have to remember with Tobias Harris, he's been honestly the number 1 and number 2 option everywhere he's ever been in his career, whether it be Detroit, whether it be in the Clippers. Okay, he comes here and he, at times would have to be the number 2 option because obviously we know Ben didn't want to shoot. It had to get used to it. Now he's going to be the number 3, possibly the number 4 option, right? So obviously number 1 option is Joel Embiid. Number 2 option, in my opinion, is going to be Tyrese Maxey. Number 3 is James Harden / Tobias Harris, option 4. I mean, you're talking about a guy that could go 18 and 8, 18 and 8, 18 points, 8 rebounds as your number 4 option on your team. I'll tell you what, man, that it's pretty deep. That's a pretty deep roster if you're asking me. Okay, it's a pretty deep roster if you're asking me. Okay, and then you make your other acquisitions, right? The ones that fly under the radar. Okay. Now, before we get to the acquisitions, you also have Matisse Cyborg, who, listen, Cyborg underperformed from the offensive side of the ball. We still need to realize, or I shouldn't say realize, we still need to figure out who Matisse Cyborg is. Because I remember getting in arguments with a lot of people last year. And we talked about, you don't trade Matisse Cyborg. He's an elite defender. Well, again, if he doesn't do anything else, I said this before and I'll say it again, but I grew up in an era where there were plenty of elite defenders. Plenty of elite defenders. One elite defender I remember was a guy named Bruce Bowen. Was Bruce Bowen an NBA superstar? No, he was not. Was he able to be picked up off of waivers or through, a low budget trade? Absolutely. So those guys are out there. I'm not paying $20+ million, okay, to a guy like Matisse Cyborg who can't put the ball in a hoop, who could just give me elite defense, who I will say at times had a lot of mental lapses on the court. Okay, at times had a lot of mental lapses on the court. So I think we have to look at that as well. A lot of mental lapses on the court. So that needs to be rectified. I think there was a reason why they weren't able to come to an agreement on an extension. Okay, which he goes into next year as being a restricted free agent, which means we can match offers. I think because the Philadelphia 76ers are kind of thinking, I'm not sure yet. They were very hesitant to give him that big paper. Okay. And I think they need a year. They need a year to see, will Matisse come into his own? Now, will he be able to hit that outside shot with consistency? Will he be able to be more than just an elite defender? Time will tell. If you're watching the show, make sure you're hitting that like button. Make sure you're hitting that subscribe button. That's most important. Make sure you're subscribing to the Final Judgment. Make sure that you're following at Judge Jigsaw on Instagram and Twitter. Shout out to Heat Ratio Sports and Win Daily Sports. Heat Ratio Sports, where you get all your local and national coverage. Tremendous show lineup we have over there. Heat Ratio Sports. Not only do you get this show, you get the Fancy Firebox, you get Fourth and Go, you get the Flyer and Ice show. There's so pop-up shows from different people. You just never know who's going to show up on the Heat Ratio Sports Network. And then we got the wonderful Profit Center in Win Daily Sports, the home of the $5.99 a week profit home, or I should say profit center, where you can make your life a profit center for $5.99 a week. Fantasy, sports betting, you name it. We do a sponsored Win Daily Sports Football Friday segment on this show as well. That'll be coming up on Thursday. And then most importantly, our good friends, the flagship sponsor of the show, SEObrand.com, the home and the place where all analytics begin. More on that and how and why in the middle of the show. Now let's get to acquisitions. DeAnthony Melton. DeAnthony Melton, a very underrated move, in my opinion, that happened on draft night, right? Fifth-year pro, guard out of USC, stronger than people give him credit for, can do a lot of scrappy things, a lot of energy coming off the bench, and let's be honest, can actually fill in very nicely in a role style of play if something were to happen to one of these guys. So I honestly think, upgrade, in my opinion, from Danny Green. Just my opinion. Upgrade from Danny Green. And then we bring in a bench guy who I think, again, he's a tweener, right? He's a guard, he's a forward. He could play the 2, he could play the 3. Daniel House Jr., who's going to give you a lot of tenacity. He's going to give you some gritty plays, some steals, some rebounds. He's going to play some really decent defense, and he's going to be able to hit some outside shots for you when you need it. So, if you're expecting Danny House to come in here and give you 15 points a game, you're sadly mistaken. But these are the guys that we watched from afar on other teams come in and play these roles deep into the playoffs. And I love how they're assembling, or how they have assembled this roster for that need. George Niang, who here's the interesting part that I like about all these signings. Now George Niang gets to play the George Niang role. I think last year, George Niang was exposed. Sometimes when you have a team that's looking for answers and looking for energy, you start to lean on guys that are your spark plug, but that plug gets lit up way too many times, and then eventually it burns out. And I thought you saw that in George Niang. When George Niang is coming in and giving you 10 to 12 minutes a game, 2 shifts, you can get 2 George Niang shifts of 5 to 6 minutes, you're gold. That's what you want. But when you start giving George Niang spot starts at 25-minute runs, I think that's where you expose who he really is. Okay. And then, a lot of that spark tends to go out, and it hurts more than it helps. So I think this helps George Niang this year. And what I mean by helping, the other additions, so George Niang doesn't have to be exposed. So I think George Niang is a very important part of this bench, the way it's presently constructed, especially knowing that right now he can actually play that 5 to 6 minute segment role. And then we have, listen, the last guy that comes in late, right? The last guy that comes in late is Montrez Harrell, who, I'll tell you what, man, he's going to play. Here's a funny thing. Montrez Harrell is going to play the Andre Drummond role. And I know we like Dre from a rebounding standpoint, but obviously Dre was spent when it comes to running the floor. Montrez Harrell not only is going to give you the toughness down low, the defensive capabilities, those gritty rebounds. He's going to give you that tenacity. Again, that's what I like about this team. You ordered, I don't say like they're ordering from a menu, but you assembled a bunch of tenacious individuals that are going to be up in your grill all game long, that are going to make you think twice about coming into that paint. And I really like the mindset here, especially in a Philadelphia town, with a leader like a Joel Embiid, who is obviously the farthest thing from the word soft, in my opinion. So they're going to play on each other. And I think having Montrez Harrell is going to be a huge deal. An 8th-year player, not old by any means. An 8th-year player, forward slash center. Center. He can play to 4. He can play to 5. And again, Montrez Harrell coming in and giving you very, very good minutes and very good shifts is going to be very important. Obviously, you have Sniper Shake, right? Shake Milton, another guy who I think was exposed a little bit last year. A lot of the guys that you saw last year that maybe took a dip, were overused and they were exposed. And that's what happens, right? It's what happens. It happens to very, very good players, very, very good role players. I mean, we watched it in this town, right? We watched it in this town, in 2001. AI, Allen Iverson had a team assembled around him of very, very good rotational pieces that if they were exposed when AI wasn't popping off, listen, Tyreek Hill wasn't going to give you 25. George Lynch wasn't going to give you 20. Eric Snow couldn't give you 25. They were exposed, right? If you allow these guys to play within their roles and within their shifts, they're going to be highly successful. And I think a lot of that, number one, that's what happened to Shake last year. I think he was thrown into the fray a little too much. He's a very streaky shooter, and he's a guy that has to go to the rim to create space. But he was also hurt. He had a back injury. He was dealing with a lot last year. I think a lot of that went under the radar. So, a fully healthy Shake Milton is only going to help this team even more this year. So, another really good bench piece, right? And these bench pieces are extremely important. B-ball Paul Reed in his 3rd year, obviously a fan favorite, right? Gets some nice money, gets a nice deal in the offseason, comes in here and, he showed that electric youth, and Paul, what Paul Reed is? Paul Reed is, our young Philadelphia Phillies player on the 76ers. Paul Reed is that Alec Bohm. Paul Reed is that Bryson Stott, right? He is that spark plug of energy that we need on this team. Very raw, right? Very raw. You remember, Alec Bohm, very raw. Bryson Stott in the beginning, very raw, until they were able to assemble themselves into a legitimate Major League Baseball player. And that's the same thing with Paul Reed. Paul Reed probably works harder than anybody on that team. And lucky him, he has some tremendous veterans now in that house to help him understand how to take that energy and put it in the right place. Let's dribble before we run, right? Let's catch before we shoot. Simple things that when you're a very energetic person, that maybe you need somebody to help you out with that. And he has all the athleticism in the world. And now it's just refining his skills, understanding his role, and holding back that energy just a little bit and make sure it's directed in the right spot at the right times. It's funny, as a soccer coach, me and my assistant can consistently say to some of our players, listen, when you're dribbling the ball down the line, you're going to the flag, don't go full speed all the time. You have to pick your spots. You have to dribble it, and then you have to take your spots when you're ready to sprint. And that's the same thing I'm thinking about Paul Reed. He has to understand when to play and when to sprint. And once he learns that, he's going to be a really good force off the bench. Another great piece for the Philadelphia 76ers. Now, listen, another guy, Furkan Korkmaz. I don't know. I'm going to be honest with you. I'm really surprised that they left Korkmaz on this roster. I'm shocked, to be honest with you. We'll see what happens, right? We'll see what happens. Obviously, we're talking about the last guy off the bench, in my opinion. A bench role, right? A bench role. So we'll see. And then we have the young Jaden Springer. The young, 2nd-year guard is going to be, him and Cork are be the last guys. If you're getting Jaden Springer, there's a problem. Hopefully we play a lot of games this year that are out of hand in the second half, and we can put Jaden Springer in to get some exposure to help us down. Because as a 2nd-year player, You saw Tyrese Maxey evolve, right? But Tyrese Maxey is a different kind of player. But Jaden Springer can take that same path if we're able to get him some NBA experience. So overall, I'm very excited about Jaden Springer. This is a great team right now, man. This is a great team. I just went through it. What your expectations are. Hit me in. What's your verdict right now? What's your expectations? It's still for me. It's going to be NBA Finals or bust. We've been here too long. We've been here too many times. Too many second round exits. Too many lackluster playoff performances. It's time to go all in. This is the time. Like my man John Cena says, the time is now. The time is now, Philadelphia, and let's ride these coattails of the Philadelphia Phillies, of the Philadelphia Union, of the Philadelphia Eagles, and ride the coattails of this energy in this town. And let's get to our NBA Finals experience this year. Let's stay healthy. Let's stay focused. Let's stay energetic. Let's feed off the vibe, and let's continue to bring these winning ways back home where they belong, in the city of Philadelphia. And speaking of winning ways, how else do you become a winner if you don't have the right analytics that's pumping out your system? And what I mean by that is your web page, your Instagram page, your YouTube page, your website. The most important part of any small or big business, everybody wants to follow a specific point, right? They're going to go to a link, whether that be your YouTube page, whether it be that, your Facebook page, whether that be your website, but everybody wants to find out, who is this person? What is this brand? And number one, how do you build the brand if you don't acquire the right traffic? How do you continue to build the brand if you don't know where the traffic's coming from? And that's the guys at SEObrand.com do. These guys have been doing it for 15 plus years. Okay. They take all this traffic, they break it down. Not only do they create it for you, but they also let you know how it was created. Where is it coming from? They direct your traffic into the direction that you need to be in, whether it be your brand, whether it be your page, wherever it is. They are the master directors when it comes to that. They've been doing it for a very long time. Like I said, 15 plus years. And they take these cold generated calls and they turn them into sales. And that's what you want, right? They turn into sales. And what I mean by sales is, people that, want to visit your site. And when we create traffic to these sites, we create opportunity, and that opportunity equals sales. And that's the most important part. And they've been a fantastic partner here in helping the Final Judgment, direct into those certain ways. And again, whether the business is small, whether the business is big, they are here for you to answer your questions. Give them a call. Go give them a follow, SEObrand.com. Make sure you tell them you heard this ad on the Final Judgment and that Tony Cutillo sent you, and you want to know how to create your traffic. So let's get to end the show on some fantastic Philadelphia sports or national sports memories. Could be any sports memories, in your mind. What stands out to you? And again, whether you're working, whether you're busy and you're watching the show later, hit me up in the comments, hit me up in the threads. Let me know, what is your favorite sports memory, because we've had a ton of sports memories in the city of Philadelphia, a ton of sports memories, in other cities around the country, just in this year alone in 2022. But I go back, I have to stick it right here, right at home. And again, my favorite memory may not be what your favorite memory is, but that's why we bring it up. I watched the Philadelphia Phillies, and watching Scissors Bank Park just explode to an insane level. A level that we have not witnessed in a very long time. 10, 11 years, yeah, but even before that, I remember 93 for the Philadelphia Phillies. I remember being at the Vet. I remember it being at the NLCS Game 1 versus the Atlanta Braves. And I was sitting third base line, sitting with my dad, just me and my dad. It was my first playoff game ever. And, and I'm 12. I think I was 12 years old, 12, 13 years old. And, in the top of the ninth, Kim Batiste. Remember Kim Batiste? Kim Batiste booted a ball at third base, gave the Braves the lead, or let them get back in. I think, either gave them the lead or let them get back in. And then he came up in the bottom of the ninth, and he won the game. He won it back. And the feeling I had in my veins at 12 or 13 years old, the feeling that was at Veteran Stadium in the city of brotherly love, in the city of Philadelphia, for the Philadelphia Phillies, for those red pinstripes, to be able to sit there and enjoy that with my dad was something I'll never ever forget. Sports brings people together, whether it be friends, whether it be family. It doesn't matter. It brings everybody together. The best thing about the sports world is sports see no ethnicity, sports see no gender, sports just see sports, right? Everybody's happy, everybody's enjoying. Finally in a world, the sport where you could be in that moment where there is no judgment. Okay, no pun intended, but in that moment there is no judgment, and I think that's what's so fantastic about the world of sports. And the other memory I have, it comes from the wrestling world. Sports memories. Wrestling to me is a sport, and I say this. I've said this before. I'll say it again. If you have never ever saw a WWE show, and you won't see it anymore because he's retired, but where the Undertaker was live and you were able to witness the entrance of the Undertaker, I can tell you, you'll never ever ever witness anything like that ever again. And I took my, again, it's all, I'm a family guy, right? It's all about family. Me, my daughter, my sons, my brother, my mom, my dad, sitting in a row and all getting chills. My mom and my dad getting goosebumps. Couldn't believe my dad still talks about it to this day. It was 20 years ago. Still talks about it to this day. Or 15 years ago, whatever it was. Still talks about it to this day. And, there are the moments that are created. And guess what? You don't even have to be there. You don't have to be there. Okay. Like, I'm going to be honest with you. Like, I'm a very family oriented guy when it comes to everything. And, last night, I don't do this show because I'm watching a game, okay, between the Denver Broncos and the LA Chargers, a game that was very tough to watch, but I got to spend 3 hours together with my 15-year-old son because my 17-year-old was working, but my 15-year-old son, not sitting there on his phone, not sitting there with his head down, just sitting there invested in the game, sitting in there talking to me, asking me questions, bringing up memories that we had, whether it be from fancy football moments or, moments outside or, from games that we previously watched, right? Making fun of certain calls, laughing at certain plays. They're my memories, man. That's what sports brings out. Sports brings that out in everybody. And that's a fantastic thing. And like I said, that could be your family, that could be your friends, but you watch the tailgates that go on for the Philadelphia Eagles. Shout out Philly Sports Trips. Shout out Fourth and John. Fourth and John, the OGs when it comes to tailgating. Gail, Evan, E-Rock. You know the drill, man. Back in the day, man. Simone and Lacey. I mean, Dustin. These guys that continue to set the bar when it comes to bringing everybody together. And, they're the moments that they remember. All the moments they remember being together and having fun, right? Just having fun, not seeing, like I said, not seeing gender, not seeing ethnicity, not seeing anything. Just, the only color that you see in that moment is green. That's all you see. You see green and white and black. Okay. The colors of the Philadelphia Eagles jersey. You go to a Sixers game, you see this, you see white, red, and blue. And yeah, some black. Well, if we're gonna go back to the city, right? The city editions. That's what you see. The Philadelphia Phillies, red, white, maroon, blue, powder blue. That's all you see. That's what makes sports so special. And that's what we're gonna end this show on. Making sports so special. Listen, I like to talk a lot, and certain things to me hit home. They really do. There's a lot of stuff going on in this world, a lot of stuff. And if you're a parent, your job is the toughest job in the world. So if you're a parent right now, This is one of the toughest jobs that you're ever going to have. Okay, helping your child go through life and understanding what's right and what's wrong. Whatever you feel is that whatever you feel that is, right? Because again, there's no judgment here. Okay? But that's what I love about sports. I grew up in a household, I'll say it before. I said it before and I'll say it again. I grew up in a household that saw no ethnicity, saw no color. All we breathed was love, man. And we love of sports. And sports doesn't see gender, sports doesn't see ethnicity. Sports has no judgment when it comes to the ultimate fan. And I wish we could just all live in the world of sports because, you know, I just want to breathe positivity out there. And right now, in the world of sports, especially when it comes to Philadelphia sports, positivity is become number one. And I love every minute of it. So for me, for Tony Jigsaw Cutillo, I'm gonna sign off here for the final judgment. Favorite sports memories: Sixers NBA championship run. A lot of good things coming up. Hopefully, getting Kai Carlin on from USA Today covers the 76ers to get his take. That'll be its own podcasted segment. That'll be exclusively to the final judgment. Make sure you check that out. I'm sure he's going to have a lot of great stuff to say. Um, and the championship run starts tonight. Starts tonight. Game one, Philadelphia Phillies. Game two on Wednesday. We got a bye week, obviously, for the Eagles. See if the Flyers can continue to capitalize with their new coach and new direction. And the Philadelphia Union hit the playoffs on Thursday. Man, a lot of good things coming up ahead, for not only Philly sports, but also for the final judgment. So, as always, some people have thoughts, some people have takes. But on this show, you get the final judgment.